Hunger, I believe, is even more important than intelligence. Intelligence is so important, but there are a lot of very intelligent people that never maximize their capability. How many know somebody very smart that can't fight their way out of a paper bag? Say hi. So intelligence is so valuable, but hunger is even more. And if you've come to a program like this, I know the hunger is there. But the second thing it requires is a massive amount of energy. Because what I've found in life is many times people have the ability to do things. They know what to do, they just don't do it. And a big part of that is energy. So when I was back there feeling the energy, you've got the music, it's so quiet in here. You're being quiet right now. Most of you are doing what you've done most of your life when you went to an education environment. And what is that? You're now learning the way you did when you went to a 20th century school. In a 20th century school, what do we learn? The bell rings and what are you supposed to do? Immediately report to your what? Position. And when you get to that position, you're supposed to sit down and start a conversation with the people around you. Is that right? You're supposed to initiate, is that right? No, when you went 20th century school, you were taught, sit down, be quiet, be passive, wait till someone tells you what to do. Today, if you wait for someone to tell you what to do, if you don't talk to your neighbor, you're out of business. Who's with me here? Say, ah. So I'd like to change this, because how many of you in this room have ever gone to an environment where you learned something that you thought was really, truly valuable? No one sold you on it. You personally thought this is really something that could change my business, change my life. You were excited about it. But when you went home, you literally never applied a bit of what you've learned. Who's ever done this before? Raise your hand, say aye. Oh, come on. If you're not raising your hand, you lie about other shit too. Raise your hand, say aye. Who's done this more than once in your life? Say aye. Who still feels intelligent? Say aye. So we're all smart people. Why would smart people learn something, get in an environment like this, and then not maximize it? It's because we've all been conditioned by our traditional education, which was designed back in the 19th century, 20th century, where you designed to get a job, where you were supposed to report at a certain position, someone told you what to do. Basically, it was an assembly line. Today, that's not true. So I like to break out of that, because research shows if you sit and listen to me passively like you are right now, you're being very nice, smiling, nodding your head, being sweet. I appreciate it. But if you do that, research shows 3 months from now, you'll remember about 10% of what was said, which basically was wasting your time and wasting mine too. I don't want to waste yours, much less mine. So if you listen and take notes, it jumps up to the 40, 50 percentile, even if you never look at the notes again. Because just writing it down drives the groove deeper. So I'd encourage you to do that. I don't see many of you with any form of notes, but I know you have your phones. Some of you do, but if you have no notes, you must not have had a very high expectation of much value coming out of the session, clearly. But thirdly, if you physically engage your body, which is what I like to do, your voice, your body, your energy, engagement is part of what we're going to talk about here in business. It's the most pathetic level in a long time worldwide. Even though we have all these tools for productivity, we have all these tools for distraction. And as a result, most people are not maximizing. So if we want to transform, the thing we really need to be able to shift is get ourselves engaged at a different level. So what I'd like to ask you to do is, from here on out, if you're willing to, is let's start with some energy. Because let me ask you a question. If you have two people in a relationship, let's just go intimate for a moment. And you have two people, and both these individuals are really, they're in a magnificent state of mind and emotion. Their life is going beautifully. They're happy as could possibly be. And they enter a relationship, two really happy people. What's that relationship going to be like? You tell me, if you know nothing else. What kind of relationship is going to be if you got two people in a great peak state? Tell me, what's it going to be like? Now, if I'm having a soliloquy, you won't get anything out of this. I'm asking you to then answer the question, just so you refer back to me or affirm. I'm doing it because if you sit passively, you won't remember anything. But if you activate your nervous system by raising your hand, by asking questions, by yelling out the answer, then the energy will rise. Who's willing to do this? If you are, raise your hand, say aye.
I spoke at an education summit for Microsoft. I also spoke at an education summit for Apple. At the education summit for Microsoft, I would say that 70% of the executives spent about 70% of their presentations talking about how to beat Apple. At the Apple Education Summit, 100% of the executives spent 100% of their presentations talking about how to help teachers teach and how to help students learn. One is playing this way, and one is playing that way. One is playing finite, and the other one is playing infinite. Guess which one gets frustrated? So at the end of my talk at Microsoft, they gave me a gift. They gave me the new Zune when it was a thing. And let me tell you, this thing was spectacular. It was the most elegant piece of technology I'd ever used. The user interface was incredible. The design was spectacular. I absolutely loved it. It was easy to use, and it was bright and gorgeous and fantastic. It didn't work on iTunes, which is a different problem, so I couldn't use it, but it was amazing. And elegant. My God, it was elegant. So I'm sitting in the back of a taxi with a very senior Apple executive, sort of employee number 12 kind of guy. And, you know, I like to stir pots. So I turned to him, I said, you know, Microsoft gave me their new Zune, and it is so much better than your iPod Touch. And he turned to me and he said, I have no doubt. Conversation over. Because the infinite player understands sometimes you're ahead and sometimes you're behind. Sometimes your product is better and sometimes it's worse. The goal isn't to be the best every day. The goal isn't to outdo your competition every day. That's a finite construction. If I had said to Microsoft, I've got the new iPod Touch and it's so much better than your Zune, they would have said, can we see it? What does it do? React, 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 react. Finite players play to beat the people around them. Infinite players play to be better than themselves. To wake up every single day and say, how can we make our company a better version of itself today than it was yesterday? How can we create a product this week that's better than the product we created last week? We also have to play the infinite game. It's not about being ranked number one. It's not about having more followers on Twitter than your friends. It's not about outdoing anyone. It's about how to outdo yourself. It's not about selling more books or getting more TED views than somebody else. It's about how to make sure that the work that you're producing is better than the work you produced before. You are your competition. And that is what ensures you stay in the game the longest. And that is what ensures you find joy. Because the joy comes not from comparison, but from advancement.
Let me show you what turned my life every way but loose. Mr. Schoaf dropped this idea on me, changed me completely. Setting goals. Here's what can easily happen if you don't set goals. It's easy to let life deteriorate into making a living instead of designing a life. And we all have a choice. Make a living or design a life. It's easy to get trapped by economic necessity and settle for existence rather than substance. That's easy. But the best advice I can give you on how to break out of that trap is to learn how to set goals. Mr. Schoaf put it to me this way. He said, Jim, if you had enough reasons, you could do the most incredible things. I never forgot how he put that. If you have enough reasons. See, reasons will change your whole life. Mr. Schoaf said to me, he said, Mr. Rohn, I think you've got plenty of intelligence, you've got plenty of talent, you've got plenty of ability. Probably what you lack is plenty of reasons. He said, I don't think your current bank balance is a true indication of your level of intelligence. I was happy to hear that. He said, I think you're much smarter than your present bank balance indicates. And that turned out to be true. I was much smarter. But of course my first question was, well then why isn't it bigger? And he said, you don't have enough reasons. You've got enough intelligence, but not enough reasons. So see, reasons can change your life. Here's what else I found out. Reasons come first, answers come second. You don't get the answers to do well till you get the reasons. Life has a mysterious way of hanging on to all the answers and only gives them up to the people that are inspired by reasons. So reasons make the difference in how your life works out. Now, what are some of the reasons for doing well? Let's go through a quick list called Reasons for Doing Well. First is personal reasons. Some people do well for recognition. Some people do well for respect. Some people do well for the way it makes them feel. They love the feeling of being a winner. Those are good reasons. I have some millionaire friends that keep working 10, 12 hours a day, making more millions. And it's not because they need the money. It's because they need the joy and the satisfaction and the pleasure that comes from being a constant winner. And see, it's not just the money anyway. It's the journey, not the money. Once in a while somebody says to me, boy, if I had $1 million, I'd never work another day in my life. That's probably why the good Lord sees to it they don't get their million, right? They'd quit. They'd quit.
We wonder why our culture's depressed when depressed people get all the love and attention. Isn't that interesting? It's hard to figure this one out, isn't it? So what I want you to do is you got to make a choice. You can either bow your head and fit in, because if you stand out, then there are going to be a few people that are going to take shots at you, and that comes with the territory. So you either get to live with your head bowed or live with your head high and take a few hits and enjoy your life like most people never will. But you got to choose, because you can't live in between. There is no in between. Either step up or you step down. We all have a fear we're insignificant and unloved, or will be. So that's all that's happening for you. It's called being a human. It just shows up in a context because you can pick a profession where on a regular basis you need to make requests of people, and lots of times they're going to say no, and their no becomes for him rejection, failure. Worthless is the word he would never say that he really felt. He doesn't want to say worthless because that scares the hell out of him. So he says not successful. Failure, not successful. He'll never get to worthless because that's a scary word to say. No one wants to say they feel worthless, but that's what everybody's afraid of feeling. Now, search your own heart, your own experience, and see if that's true. And that's probably not true for you, but how many have seen other people have a fear of being worthless or not being loved or not success? Other people, how many have seen that? Of course, those other people have those feelings. So maybe you do too at times. Now, I know you don't feel that way when you're competent and you're in charge and you're controlled and everything's going your way. That's your plan, that you do all those things. Some people work all the time so they can feel that because they have control. They're with their kids and they feel incompetent, so they go back and work more. Because they don't know how to deal with this thing. The kid wants to watch the Disney show for the 5,000th time. Now they don't know how to deal with that. So human beings have these common fears. Now what do? Well, here's the truth. The fear will never leave you completely. That's the truth. So when you know something's true, it's best to hug the monster instead of fear the monster. Only way to deal with fear that I found in my life is a couple ways. One of those ways is to turn it on itself and ask yourself, what am I afraid of? If I'm afraid of that, I got to be more afraid of what I'm going to miss out on, missing out on my mission, missing out on who I'm supposed to be. In other words, if you're not going to get rid of fear, then use fear. Use fear or it uses you. It's that simple. Fear is at pandemic levels. Fear is, viral today. And as you know, when someone gets in a fearful place for whatever reason, whether it's something real or not, it has a hormonal response. All of a sudden, the heart starts racing. You start to breathe shallow. Everything narrows down your focus. And what happens is we go into survival. And we all have a survival brain because we all have a 2 million-year-old brain. And that brain's always looking for what's wrong. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that tap into that today.
I was a millionaire by age 31. I'm broke by age 33. Couple of million, 2.5 million, all swept away. Making foolish decisions. That first money, it's really hard to keep. I'm just a young guy. 31, 32 years old. But sure enough, I fell for some of the temptations. You know somebody's going to be parted with their money before long when they say, like I did, how many colors does it come in? Right? You know, I'll buy them all. You know, that kind of sort of recklessness. And then making some unwise business decisions. Company wanted to borrow some money, $250,000. The bank said, well, if Mr. Rohn will sign personally, we'll let you have the money. And I knew they could pay it back, so I signed. So I'm the hero. They pay it all back. I leave, go away. I find out a little bit later that the company got in financial trouble, went back and borrowed this $250,000 again. And I said, well, I hope they don't call me, because this time I won't sign. I signed the first note. It was all paid back, but I knew they weren't going to make it this time. And they never called. However, sure enough, within a year, this company goes belly up. And I get a letter from the bank saying, dear Mr. Rohn, we have here your guarantee that if the company can't perform, you will. On this $250,000, please send us your check. And I said, hey, there's been some mistake here. I signed the first note, but nobody ever called me. I never signed the second note. What I didn't know that I had originally signed was a continuing guarantee. Now I know what the word continuing means. I know how much it costs per letter. But anyway, that and a few other experiences, and, you know, some of my newfound wealth was on paper, and that disappeared. So sure enough, from poor to rich and from rich back to poor, what do you do now? What occurred to me was that even though my money was gone, I still had the skills. And the skills proved to be more valuable than the money. So I just simply went back to work, went back to the street. Back using the formula I had used in the first place to do well and made many times more what I did the first time. But I think that's the key. You just have to go back to work. And part of it was I was willing to readjust my lifestyle. The fancy cars had to go, the homes and all that stuff had to go. And you go back to a modest apartment and a modest place and pull everything down to start over rather than try and keep living up here when you should have to start over back to the street or whatever you have to do. And just put it together again. No different than the farmer who plants in the spring and it's all gone when the hailstorm is finished. When he goes back in the spring and says, let's try it one more time. I can't imagine 2 years in a row. Once in a while, maybe there would be 2 years in a row when you get wiped out, but not that often. So you try it again. And probably from the experience, if you treat it right and keep the right attitude, you'll be stronger than you were the first time around or the second time around. But everything comes down to attitude and philosophy. When I first started working on my fortune as well as my living, my mentor said it depends on your attitude. If you say, I'm working a little extra time to pay some bills, that'd be one thing. But if you said, I'm working a little extra time to start my fortune, see, that makes getting out of bed totally different. To get up to pay some extra bills is one thing. To get up to lay the foundation for your fortune, see, is a whole different attitude and mindset and philosophy. So if you have the right attitude, no matter what's happened, if you just readjust your attitude and your philosophy and a whole new mindset and start again.
These people aren't living life. They're not truly experiencing life. What do you really want to do? Well, I don't like this, but I guess I'll go ahead on and do it. No! The life is too short for that. Too short and unpredictable, moseying through. Not trying to disturb anything, not trying to shake anything up, not trying to make any waves. You see, there are some people who come through the universe and their level of contribution and the level of energy they manifest is so small, so inconspicuous that when they go, you won't even know they left. I mean, there are people who die on jobs and you say, hey, where's John? Oh, John been dead 6 months. You're kidding. No. Is that right? Yeah. I didn't know. Why did somebody say, well, I guess we didn't miss him. But there's some people, because of their personality, because of their contribution, because of the investment of their time and their energy and the impact they have there, that when they go, everybody will miss them. See, when Mother Teresa checks out, everybody will know. When Rosa Parks, everybody will know. Nelson Mandela, everybody will know. Why? Because of their contribution. See, but there's some people, because their contribution is so small, no one will care. So I'm saying, before you are boxed and buried, decide that you're going to box and bury your fears. Decide that you're going to begin to live life on a new level, seeking out new horizons, that you're going to find more love and more joy and more ways to give more to life. God said something, I love this. He says, everything a man does for himself, guess what? He takes with him. But everything he does for others, he leaves behind. So when you begin to say, what is it that I want to leave? What contribution that I want to begin to make? What difference do I want to make in life? What is it that I want to do with the rest of the life that I have left? What chances I need to take? What risks do I need to begin to embrace? What fears do I need to step on? What areas of my life am I dead right now? What dream? You can either live your dreams or live your fears. You have got to get to a point where you say, I'm sick and tired of living like this. There's got to be more. That's when people go out and strike out on their dreams. That's when people get out of relationships where they're dying together rather than growing together. That's when they leave jobs. So where are you going? Away from here.
So many people go through their whole lives leaving things up to chance. That is loser mentality. You have to understand how important it is to go all the way, to go the extra mile, to do things in such a way that it forces people to take note of you.
Never live your life in probability. Probability is the probability of something happening. There's a statistic attached to a probability. 1 in every 3,000 people do this. 1 in every, that's a probability. A possibility has no stats attached to it. Live your life in possibilities and you're changing. Just change the way you think.
Winners go so far and above and beyond what is actually expected that they force the result. You are in control of putting so much effort into something that people have to notice. You have to go that far. You have to force their eyeballs on you. You have to make people say, that guy's definitely the right guy for the job. Look how much better he is than everybody else.
You know what I thought to myself? I thought I would hate to live and die and never know what would happen if I ever committed myself to anything. Some people have never thrown their whole self at nothing. Not at school, not at work. Oh my God, you've had 1 foot in and 1 foot out of every dream all of your life, and you've never seen what you could be if you ever really connected and threw everything. And the question is, if you died today, what ideas, what dreams, what abilities, what talents, what gifts will die with you?
We forget that you don't have to be famous to have the ability to change at least your own personal history, to change the direction we go in our life. We have the power to choose, even if you haven't before. You can finally say, no more, I won't put up with that, within myself or from anybody else. And here's what I'm going to do differently. That's where the breakthroughs really start to happen. Now the question is, why do some people stand their ground and make something change versus other people just kind of accept things?
The science of becoming successful is not what you do for a living. It ain't how much you make. It ain't none of that. It's simply how you think. If you change your thought, you change everything. You change your attitude, you change your altitude. It's all that. It's the law of attraction. Your attitude is everything. That's what it is. Money ain't everything, but it's very helpful. It ain't everything, but it's a lot.
It's not that easy as dropping out of law school. You've always wanted this. You've always worked for this. You've dreamt about this forever. And it's not going to leave you. That's why we say your dreams are kind of in the back of your mind. So you don't have a choice about this. If you've always wanted this, so you got to take care of the fact that you're grieving, and that's like riding waves of emotion.
That's taking control. That is not leaving things up to chance. This is a skill. This is not something you're gifted with. This is something you learn. This is something you practice. And eventually, yes, it does become a habit, but it's not one that people automatically have. You have to go the extra mile. You have to go all in. You have to quit leaving things up to chance if you want to win. Winners do not leave things to chance. They do every thing that they possibly can, every single time, every single day, to win. They understand the last 20% is what separates them from everybody else. It's what separates you from where you want to be.
That drive and that attitude of never quit, it's a powerful force, and it does push you over the edge to victory in many cases. But over that attitude, you have to layer something on top of that. It's basically strategic vision and understanding of the battlefield as a whole. So you absolutely need to know when you got to stop beating your head against the wall. You've got to know that.
Happiness is both a grasp of the obvious as well as an awe of the mysterious. But for most people around us, happiness seems to be either something left behind or something yet to be discovered. Like all the good things in life, happiness is elusive by nature, but not impossible to capture. A major key for bringing joy into our lives lies in the next word, discipline. If there is a magic word that stands out above all the rest, this is the one, discipline.
Predictability creates stability. Structure creates steadiness. You need to set and stick with a routine for the duration of this pandemic. Stop watching so much news because it's all negative right now. And for your own mental and emotional and spiritual health, you need to monitor your media intake.
I made a decision, a very difficult decision, all of my work for all those years of filing. I made a decision to get rid of all of it. They're not relevant, they're not new, they're not fresh, they don't breathe, there's no fire and passion in them. I'm just going to say to you, it begins to help us to let go of the things that we have depended on the past so that we can go to an entire new level of living.
Happiness is contentment with the tasks of your life. It is thought inspired by, organized with, and rooted in your personal philosophy. Happiness is a life well lived, in which a wide variety of experiences are deliberately captured to become an invaluable form of currency for you to spend and invest in your own better future. Happiness is activity with purpose. It's love in practice.
You can take an introvert. You know you're an introvert if when you're around people, you get exhausted by it and you have to go off by yourself and recover. Then you're an introvert. And if you're an introvert, you don't really like being in groups. And so sales, maybe that's not for you, and that's a good thing to know, because if you're an introvert, why go be a salesperson and be miserable? Do something where you can spend time alone and not be miserable. But that's better.
By reviewing your habits, you may find out that some of them are inhibiting your success. You may find out that what you're doing every day is bad for you. Or you may realize that you've gotten out of some very good habits. Somebody says, well, I've just gotten out of the habit of taking my daily walk around the block. Well, I guess you'll just have to get in the habit of being sick down the road. Somebody says, well, I used to read the books all the time. I've just gotten out of the habit. Then change it. Go back into your disciplines. If you've just gotten out of the habit, just get back into the habit. It's called discipline. If it doesn't work, don't do it any longer. You can keep your fingers crossed if you want to and hope that it'll all straighten out. You can wish for the wind not to blow quite as severely, to change in your favor, but we call that naive at best. If the habits that you've gotten into aren't serving you, change them. You can't keep doing this any longer. Don't wish for a better wind. The key is to wish for the wisdom to set a better sail. Utilize whatever wind that blows to take you where you want to go. That is the philosophy I picked up at age 25, and it revolutionized my whole life. And here's what I found. I found it was easy. I became a millionaire when I was 31, and I found it was easy. Now here's my definition of easy. It was something I could do. I figure if it's something you can do, it's easy. But here's a little parenthesis. I worked hard at it. I made sure my disciplines were in line. I made sure my habits were good. I made sure I did all that I could. I found something that I could do, but I worked hard at it. I got up early, stayed up late, and worked hard from age 25 to 31. But what I did was easy, meaning it was something I could do. Well, you say, Mr. Rohn, if it was so easy, how come during those 6 years, all those other people around you didn't get rich? Here's why. It's easy not to. How else would you describe it? That's it. It's easy to keep doing the things that don't work. It's easy to keep bad habits. It's easy not to develop the disciplines. It's easy not to. So how come I got rich and they didn't? Here's a philosophical phrase. The things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. That's the difference between success and failure, between daydreams and ambitions. Here's the key formula for success. A few disciplines practiced every day. And those disciplines have to be well thought out. What should you spend your time doing? Don't waste your time on things that aren't going to matter. But a few simple disciplines can change your whole economic future. Future with your family, future with your business, future with your enterprise, your sales career, your management career. A few simple disciplines, a few simple habits, good habits, repeated every day.
You're gonna face pressure, you're gonna face storms, you're gonna face suffering, but please understand, leg day, well, it's focusing on an area that you don't always focus on that seems unpleasant. And the best way to say it is live in harmony. Live in harmony with each other. But it's a lot of other parts coming together in harmony. It's a picture of what it looks like in our faith to walk with one another.
There are a lot of people that don't understand the power of laughter and the power of being joyful and deliberately feeling good. Does it mean that I don't have any challenges? Yes, I do.
Stuff's happened to people that I care about.
I know it's easy to get glued to the internet, glued to social media, get glued to the TV, 24-hour news channels. But if you fill your mind with constant images of negative news, and they're just saying the same thing over and over, it's going to deplete your reserves, it's going to raise your stress level, and you don't need to hear the same negative story over and over and over.
I'm more creative today than I would have been if I'd have had those files. I test more than I would have been, because what? That was a crutch to me. I was holding on to what I knew instead of letting go so I could grab hold of what I could become. So that's a huge word right now. Just be testing. It's going to make you the person you need to be during this time. You know, testing says that there's a better way, and failing says, I haven't found that way. Failing tells you that, I haven't found that way, but it also tells you getting closer to find that way.
Before you're going to have peace, you're going to have to make some decisions about some things. And the first decision you have to make is, I am unwilling to live without peace. I will not live without peace. You see, I spent way too much of my life in turmoil. And maybe 15 years ago, I made a decision that I was going to have peace, and I was going to have joy, and I was going to have righteousness.
Now here's the formula for failure. Errors in judgment, repeated every day. All you've got to do is to have a few errors in your judgment and repeat them every day. I'm telling you, they'll spin out of control in 10 years. You'll end up driving what you don't want to drive, wearing what you don't want to wear, living where you don't want to live, earning what you don't want to earn. A few errors every day, bad habits every day. It's disastrous. Now here's why it's easy to repeat an error in judgment. Because failure doesn't fall at the end of the first day. Bad habits don't show their horrible results at the end of the first day, or the first week, or the first month. It's easy to get faked out. If disaster fell on us at the end of the first week, we'd change our philosophy. But it's so subtle. Errors in judgment, bad habits. They're so subtle, they get you a little off course, a little off course, a little off course. You keep drifting off course, and all of a sudden you're caught. So you've got the choice right now of one of two easies: easy to do or easy not to do. I can give you in one sentence how I got rich by the time I was 31. I did not neglect to do the easy things I could do for 6 years. I did not neglect. That's the key. I found something easy I could do that led to fortune, and I did not neglect to do it. The major reason for not having more of what you want in America, more health, more money, more power, more influence, more everything, the major reason is simple neglect. Neglect. And if you don't take care of neglect, it becomes an infection, and then it becomes a disease. So if you're in the habit of not doing it, doing all it takes to get ahead, get in the habit of doing it. Doing all it takes. That's the first benefit of positive reinforcement, building good habits. Now, the second benefit of positive reinforcement is that it creates the energy to fuel additional achievement. It gives you the drive to do more, to not only keep on doing what's right, but to do more of what's right. The disciplines that will help you grow and get ahead of it all. The knowledge that what you're doing is paying off creates more energy to keep going. How easy is it to get up in the morning when you know you're not doing all that it takes? It's not very easy at all. You can just lay there awake thinking, oh, what's a few more minutes in bed? It won't matter much anyway. Wrong. It does matter. It will matter. Now, how easy is it to get up in the morning when you're pouring it on, doing the best you can, anxious to get going, make progress toward your dreams? It's a whole different story. When you're resting to renew your reserves, it's much different than resting to avoid your day. When you're psyched up and excited for your life, when you're excited for what you've planned to accomplish for the day, it's amazing you'll wake up before the alarm clock even tries to startle you awake. Your successes fuel your ambition. Your successes give you extra energy. Your successes pave the way for more successes. It's the snowball effect. With one success, you're excited to meet another, and another, and another. And pretty soon, the disciplines that were so difficult in the beginning, the disciplines that got you going, are now part of your philosophy.
Credit goes to our awesome patrons who make videos like this one possible. Consider joining them to support our work. You can also support us by subscribing to our channel and clicking the bell button to get notified when our new videos are released. And as always, thank you for watching.